Recording then. Well, welcome. It's Black History Conversations, and we're delighted to welcome colleagues again today. Especially we've got with us Dr. Vivian Crawford. We've got from Kingston, Jamaica here at the moment, and Simon Faringo, who's our wonderful person who deals with the techie side of things and shared with us a couple of weeks ago the project that he's been working on. We've also got Rose Johnson and Joan Grant. So as I say, and we've got others who will be joining us in the next little while. Now I'm just going to find the PowerPoint for today. Yes, lovely, got that. And we're just going to start with our formal introductions, and then we'll include anybody else who arrives along, and hopefully we'll be meeting with hopefully we'll be meeting with Rudi Page because he was involved last year in the departure of Windrush. So I think it's today's the day that's the 76th anniversary of the departure of Empire Windrush from the Kingston docks. So we're looking forward to understanding a little bit more about Rudi's story, and also to start our series of sessions as we imagine the Empire Windrush the Empire Windrush going across the Atlantic. But I'm actually in Australia, so I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I live at present, and that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. And just to let you know that recently I met someone who comes from a place called Badger Creek, and the Corranderk Reserve for Aborigines was there, and next week I'm going to go and visit that, so I have a little bit of information about that too. We also acknowledge the injustice of the actions taken by the British and other European countries that invaded and took possessions of the islands in the Caribbean Sea, as well as the continents of North and South America. And in addition, we also recognise the exploitation of the great continents of Africa, Asia, Australia, and many other parts of the world in the centuries of colonialisation and ongoing exploitation. And we acknowledge that this resulted in the destruction and destabilisation of so many nations, peoples and cultures. This year is the International Decade, last year of the decade, of people of African descent, and we'll be looking forward to, the Daisy, just mute Joan Elizabeth, she's just going to join us, and we'll be finding out more about that as time goes by. But we were expecting to have Rudi Page with us. We're hoping he's going to be joining us shortly, but we're fortunate to have Rose with us, and we're going to have a chat first of all about the launch that you were at for the Windrush. Let me just make this large and then we can read what it says. So the Windrush Anchor Heritage Education Project. So I'm just going to stop sharing that. And Rose, tell me then, what is this organisation that Rudi set up?
Rudi was very, very keen to put the Windrush issues front and centre. And he set up this the Windrush Anchor Heritage Education Programme, which he describes as a transformational approach to capacity building and community empowerment. And he started this in May 2023. It was the first post-COVID diaspora-led initiative, aligning with 4 shared goals of vision, Jamaica's National Development Plan of 2030 and National Diaspora Policy. And they wanted to put that together into a coherent program development, implementation and sharing the learning through action research. So the Windrush Anchor Heritage Education Programme, which Rudi would be far better placed to describe, plays a vital role in supporting the national development plans of Caribbean Commonwealth countries, right through, and he's there on there, and he's the best placed person to speak on it. I just was a little filler there, Rudi, whilst we were waiting for your meaty bit to come on.
Good afternoon.
Okay, well, welcome, welcome,
you.
welcome indeed.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you
really
very much.
lovely to see you, Rudi,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
brilliant to get started. So, Rudi, we've just gone through the formal introductions that we do at these sessions, and we've got with us Dr. Vivian Crawford. Vivian was the executive director of the Institute of Jamaica. I don't
I've
know if
known
you
that
know
young man
Vivian.
many years.
Oh, right, we've got mates together
Thank
here.
you
All right, so
for the
we can
word
have a
young.
mates discussion. Lovely. I
And
love
Rose, of
this. So
course, I know Rose. Yeah.
lovely. And we've also got Joan Grant with us from London, and June Elizabeth has joined us. I don't know how you do these graphics, June Elizabeth. Nobody else manages to get red roses on their name, but it's lovely that you're with us, June Elizabeth. I know you're walking along at the moment. You just sneaked out to an event that you're at to be able to join us today. So anyway, I think Rudi, best of all, just to say I'm so delighted you've joined us, and you're going to tell us all about. Well, if you don't mind, tell us about last year first, what
Right.
for the 75th anniversary, and then talk
Okay.
about your new project, and then we'll talk about how we can get your new project involved with our very exciting Jamaica Wales Alliance. So it all
Excellent.
comes together now. This is a good
That,
week.
that
All right
sounds
then.
very good indeed. Right. So very quickly then, the Windrush Anchor the Windrush Anchor Heritage Education Program actually started in 2022. And that
Right.
was after Patrick Vernon, who you all know.
Yeah.
He was involved or is involved with trying to recover the original Windrush Anchor from the bottom of
Oh.
the Mediterranean Sea, bring it back to the UK. There's a couple of other people involved, David Mearns and also Max Holloway. And so I actually went to a meeting online, and I thought it was a great idea. So I thought I would just help spread the word. And then Max Holloway, who he actually commissioned an exact replica of the anchor, and it's made from cardboard, basically, an artist, Laura, to produce it. And then basically nobody wanted it. And so when I looked at it, I thought, I said, well, I'll have it, because what I'll do, I'll build a program around it, a program of activities around the anchor, representing, the Windrush generations, and the experience in the UK, coming from primarily Jamaica and the Caribbean community, of course, but not exclusively, but just telling the story with the key three words of hope, strength, and belonging, which represent the Caribbean experience, particularly in the UK, and then, of course, what they have then done going back to contribute to the Caribbean itself. And so that's 2022. So we took the anchor around, took it into schools as well. And the youngsters did, produce videos and wrote stories around that. And it got incorporated into some of the, what they call the decolonization of the curriculum, which just really means hearing more voices about, what's happened in history. 2023 then, of course, it was the 75th anniversary of Windrush. So we were able then to act as a catalyst to celebrate the leaving of the Windrush ship from Kingston Harbour as part of the national celebrations for Jamaica. So we were on that committee. And so we did lots of activities around the UK, and lots of people did lots of stuff all over the UK. It's quite high profile. And so what we then did as well, realized that we should do a kind of a festival that will also ground the project within Jamaica. So because I'd been working with Augusttown, it made sense to do that there. And of course, the Alexandra Bedwood comes, is healing stream and everything is there in the 5 communities that make up Augusttown. So we had that kind of spiritual link with what we were doing as well. And so that went very well. And we were doing a lot of community development work as well at the same time with the various communities online. And so that has progressed. Then fast forwards to this year now, just because of time.
No, it's all right. We're fine for time.
Oh, okay. So I think what we really did last year that also was to not just raise a profile, but to press harder in Jamaica for some traction relating to the Windrush generation experience. So, we're talking about 1948 to 1971, 73 in terms of those communities, those generations, but also their offspring. So my parents came out, father left St. Mary, Jamaica in 1955. So of course, we're now talking about 4th and 5th generations even in terms of, so by arranging the event in Jamaica, that was to ensure that we kind of put some foundations in Jamaica of that recognition of the departing Windrush generations. But not only that, they've actually come back and contributed a lot back into their neighborhoods. And so we were able to have a church service. There was a special dialogue around the Windrush at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And most importantly for us was the recognition of the 24th of May as the Windrush Departure Day. But from a community and neighborhood development, we also utilize the 23rd of May, which is Labor Day. So again, we initiated Labor Day activities, and we've done the same this year now. So bringing us up to date now. So another major project we now have is centered around Landui in St. Thomas, and there's about 7 or 8 communities, including Stony Gut, of course, the Paul Bogle family. So we're working with, descendants of the Paul Bogle family and all those families that make up, Albion, Yallas, even Bowden, because you've got a Bowden in Cornwall, of course, and the Landui that's in Wales, which I guess we're going to speak about that a bit later on. But what we've done there, we've kind of taken a different approach now, because the Jamaica 2030, Vision 2030, we've adopted that whole program in terms of community development. So we've adopted the 4 goals and built that into the activities that we're actually involved in. And we're now using that as a model. We create a steering group with members of the family, both those who are abroad as well as those who are, of course, in the neighborhoods, in the communities, and built this collaborative model, reaching a consensus. And right at the center of that is that in 1941, the 1st of August, 1941, they actually launched what was at the time the 3rd village hall in Jamaica. And it was actually launched by Right Honorable Norman Manley, 1st of August, 1941. So this year is the 83rd anniversary. Also on there, on that committee, was Philip Sherlock, which I think Mr. Vivian Crawford will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he had something to do the writing of Jamaica's anthem or pledge or one of those things.
His brother.
Is it his brother? Oh,
yes.
Well, Philip is the brother.
Yes.
Okay.
Philip was Vice Chancellor, University of the West Indies.
Right.
And wrote the textbook that your parents read in primary school.
Right.
Mr. Joe, Mr. Dan.
Okay, okay,
And his
okay.
brother wrote the words of the national anthem.
Right. I knew you'd have all the details. I just knew it. But what was really great about that village hall, so it's in disrepair, no roofs, no roof, no windows. It's all overgrown. However, when we suggested that that should be the Labor Day project, and then we should actually turn that into a community development infrastructure project, you know, all hands on board. They had a great day yesterday. The young people were involved, and it's now at the center of the community as a project, which is really good, because it means all the surrounding communities once again can look at that area. And when you look at the historical records, the benevolent association still exists. So again, it's just a catalyst for renewal. So we're calling it a neighborhood renewal and sustainable communities program. So the neighborhood renewal is quite obvious because we've got families who are coming back and contributing, as well as those who are there already. Sustainable communities, you know, points towards the sustainable development goals, which obviously Jamaica 2030, you know, aligns with those. So again, from a systems and organizational systems and support, it aligns great. And so the other important thing as well, what we've done is to say that the sectors around young people, around women, you know, around agriculture, and all those kind of sectors that were traditionally important to the area, that's what we should focus on. And again, we've got collective agreement from everybody to do that. So we're going to have a series of activities now. So the 20th of June is obviously we've got the diaspora conference coming up, 16th to 19th. The 20th of June is the Day of Service Day. So what they're going to do now in that area, they're going to reinforce the fencing around the area, and they're going to lay the cricket pitch. And then on the 1st of August, they will then celebrate the 83rd anniversary of the village hall and host a cricket and football match in the area as well. And we've got some nice video of the cleaning up that's done as well, which I can send to you. So again, in terms of making progress through that building consensus, the community collaboration, the families, you know, meeting each other again. So we've got some visitors from the UK actually and the US who are down there, who are descendants of the families that make up that area. And they're all part of that Labor Day yesterday. So now we've set a really clear agenda of activity. And then, of course, when we get to October now, during Heroes Week, which we're going to call Paul Bogle Week, there'll be a lot of focus around some of the historical aspects of the legacy of Paul Bogle is the future development of the community and the neighborhood. So yeah, so that's a very exciting way of working that we're looking at as a model to share with other communities, because of course there's, I think, 775 communities that make up Jamaica. So, and all communities at some point have had families leave over the generations, and we're now saying there's a model, a way of working in terms of having a steering group and getting the talent on board. And then finally, something that we've been doing for the last couple of years has been around International Coastal Cleanup Day on the 21st of September. So what we did last year, part of my family interest is in Mesga Gardens in St. Thomas. So that's, if you think of Three Finger Jack, so it's on the beach, that area. So we organized with some young people a beach cleanup, and that went well. So again, this year now, there's a young man called Toby Grant, and he did a big environmental project in Montego Bay in the marina there. They use this, they've got this thing, kind of reed-like plant called a whist. And so he's very creative at using that. So what he's going to do now, along with the recycling people, is we're collecting the bottles, plastic bottles from the cleanup, and then he's going to make a replica of the Windrush anchor from recycled bottles and cans and things like that. So again, it's young people involved. So it's an environmental project for young people. It's a clean up, and again, it points to the Sustainable Development Goals. So yeah, so that's a quick run through. I can take any questions. I'd like to build a lot more of the historical side into it as well, because I think it was really, and that village hall. Just to say that I think, unless if in case I didn't mention it, it was the 3rd village hall in Jamaica. So I'd like to know
Third. Yeah.
two, the 1st and 2nd. It would be great to know those. I know Dr. Vivian would know that off the top of his head.
Well, Rudi, that was a fantastic whistle-stop tour, fascinatingly through what you did last year in recognition of Windrush. And yeah, fascinating, because Windrush Day is the 24th and Labour Day is the 23rd. Is it always the 23rd, Labour Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually a really, really good tie together, because when we had our meeting in Pennance, Jamaica yesterday at 9 o'clock in the morning, we had colleagues join us on Zoom, and then they were all going off to do Labour Day activities. So it was a really fantastic combined session. Now I'm sure Vivian's going to come in a moment, but I'm just going to ask you a quick, straightforward question. And I've got a book here. Do you know this book?
Blood Legacy. No, haven't seen that.
Well, this is by somebody whose family have contacts in. Do you know White Horses? Ah, right. He travelled.
That's Roselle. Sorry,
Yes,
Liz,
yes.
perhaps he knows it as Roselle, where the water is always flowing near the road in St. Thomas. Roselle, on your way to Morant Bay.
Oh, okay.
You pass it and smile with the people bathing right there in the road. And the White Horse is so called because the waves look like horses.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes, that's where they, as Liz is saying, Alex Renton said the Fergusons lived, and where the 76 Africans identified that scrap iron could be used for other sources and used in England for the Industrial Revolution.
Oh,
Thank you,
right.
Liz.
Okay, it's actually there in St. Thomas. Okay, I didn't know that.
So this could be really interesting, and I'm kind of dropping this in here because I don't want to forget it. But Alex Renton is one of the people who set up the UK group Heirs of Slavery. Do you know of this group?
No, no.
No. Well, it was led by a lady called Laura Trevelyan, and she.
Oh yeah, I heard that name.
Yeah, Laura Trevelyan was a BBC TV person, and she realized that she'd got a family legacy of plantation ownership, and so she explored her family and looked towards reparation, and she's been very proactive. Then she set up the Heirs of Slavery, if you look it up, HEIRS of Slavery, and they've got a website, and it's really interesting. Well, Alex Renton was one of the people who worked alongside with her, and he's also been very active in supporting the Church of England reparation initiative. I don't know if you know that one.
Yeah,
So
I've heard of that.
I think there's some interesting things there, but I'm not going to go on and on about that. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew that and we'd made the connection, because I think Alex will be absolutely fascinated to know what you do, and we'll send the link of this recording to him to make sure he knows. He's a really great guy. So that's really, really amazing. So that 75th anniversary we followed with great interest, because my colleague in Jamaica, poet Yasser Safari, I don't know if you know of Yasser Safari,
Know the name.
but
Mhm.
Yasser and his colleagues wanted to do they wanted to do a run-up in the years before
Mhm.
the 75th anniversary on the Kingston waterfront. And they got it all planned, and it was devastated when COVID came in that year. So it would have been 2020. And then they were going to do 21, 22, 23, and were working towards the idea of having some sort of a memorial, some sort of thing there for the 75th. But those plans were somewhat thwarted. And so when we heard you were doing something last year, we thought that was really great. And we did apply for some funding last year to be able to do something on the both sides front. And we applied again this year to the Windrush English funding to be able to look at building bridges specifically. We talk building bridges of friendship specifically to do with that. But we weren't successful in getting any funding. So we kind of left it a bit by the by. And I don't know if you realise, Rudi, I'm in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, I remember from last
Yeah,
year's
yeah.
discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're in Jamaica at the moment?
No, I'm in London because
Oh, right.
yeah,
Okay.
I was supposed to go, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make it for this trip.
No. Well,
And
I'm supposed to be
yeah,
coming back to the UK soon. But fascinating. So this idea, Vivian, there's lots of resonances for what we're doing in Penance. So I wasn't going to talk about the Penance Project, but would you like me just to tell you briefly about what we're doing there? Then you'll understand how the Jamaica Wales Alliance comes into context and how we'll be able to work together.
absolutely. I think Rose had her hand up.
Okay, Rose.
You're on mute.
Yeah. Hi, Rudi. I was trying to get a feel for how your work in Jamaica under the umbrella of the Jamaica 2030 goes across the different parishes. And to what extent are you linking up with the particular directors of in the education field? I'm just thinking about how this work could link with schools in the different parishes. Just wondered whether there's any.
I guess what I always say, I'm always willing to share, but infrastructure wise, it's not that easy or impossible to do it as an ongoing sort of program delivery. But what I keep doing is sharing the information, sharing the documents with everybody, and say, well, look, this is what we've done. And if and encouraging people to go back to their families, neighborhoods, and primary schools and get involved. And this is how we've done it. So I get a lot of inquiries from the UK side, wanting to understand how we've been able to get things going in Jamaica itself.
It's just that,
we just
forgive
share.
me. Yeah, forgive me. It's just that I've got links with 5 schools that I support. And maybe we'll talk separately about, and they're all really interesting principles. Who I'd say 4 of the 5 in particular would take some of this and run with it locally.
No, that would be great. I mean, I've spoken to the Jamaica Teachers Association a couple of times and kind of explained this way of working and during COVID, what we developed with primary schools, we called them beacons of hope, and we linked them to our online platforms and things like that. But as you know, it's challenging for someone to maintain interest and activity and translates down into the young people.
Okay, but we can I'll contact you separately.
Of course.
Thanks. Thank you.
I think the whole schools thing is really interesting. And at one stage, the schools in Jamaica were linked into the British Council exchanges, and we organised quite a few exchanges, particularly between Wolverhampton and Hanover
Yeah,
and Birmingham, and we did something with special schools. But then the British Council took Jamaica off the list of eligible countries, so that was really difficult to try to manage. And what I've said to my Ministry of Education colleagues then, particularly I was working in Region 5 in Mandeville, was that really Jamaica needed to take the initiative to explore, perhaps in each area, in each parish, ways of international linking using the technology, because it's really important that our young people understand how to use technology positively and can be introduced. And so I think there's a great deal of potential there. Anyway, I won't ramble on, but just to say that I'm going to share the screen just to explain this to you, because I know you wanted to understand.
Yeah.
So what we created was something called the Jamaica Wales Alliance, and there is a website for it, jamaicawalesalliance.com, and it talks about the sort of things that we've done between North Wales and Jamaica, with our colleague Yasser Zafari in particular. So the meetings that we have, we call the Jamaica Wales Alliance, and we hold the Penance Project meetings. So we can always have a Jamaica Wales Alliance and hold a meeting with your people. So it was a way of recognising that Wales has all kinds of links with Jamaica and how we could do that. But really, we've only ever worked on the sort of penance link. So this was what we were up to in March, just to update you with a PowerPoint, make it easier for me. Tithe is a Welsh government funded project. Tithe means journey in Welsh. And you can apply for exchange visits under adult learning. We applied under adult learning and youth. You can apply under schools as well. And we tried to get schools to apply from North Wales. We had the schools in Jamaica ready. And we also tried with, and you can also do HE links as well. But anyway, we put in 2 applications in the round that was we'll know next month whether we've got that, and that's to fund so many visits from Wales and a fewer number of visits from Jamaica back to Wales. It's not equitable, the numbers, which I find quite difficult, but it's the way it is. We're also working with the Douglas Pennant Family Foundation, pending a reply on 6 projects that we've identified in the community. So the way that we've approached it is that the community centre, the in Pennants, a community development committee was established based at the community centre. And we started meeting with them about 18 months ago. And we have these meetings every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. And we explore 2 things. 1, how to get the money out of the Douglas Pennant Family Foundation, and 2, to learn about the history of the area. And then we discuss any other projects that we're up to, looking at links between Jamaica and Wales. So we haven't heard if any school applications went in. Well, I don't think they did, because I've not heard a dick bird. We tried to link young farmers and 4-H groups, but the Welsh group pulled out. We're looking at possible Rotary options for Denbigh, Denbigh Rotary to help with parenting training, and that's being explored, that still. And Bangor University have put some of the Penryn papers online. So these are really interesting documents that identify the names of the enslaved people, and also identifies how many cows they had and how many whatever. So it's quite difficult to read. Anyway, this is our bunch. We're meeting here. We've got Vivian Crawford, you see here, Walter Lavelle from the Rotary, Coy Roach here. He's a senior civil servant, retired, and he was responsible in mining. We've got Ivor here, and his wife's behind, you can't see her. And here we've got June Elizabeth and one of her colleagues here. So that's really lovely. Can't remember his name, June Elizabeth. And we have Erica Douglas from the Custis's office joins us, and also this was a lady from, we were looking at the young farmers. This was Ernie. I couldn't think of
And
his
he was
name, June
actually
Elizabeth.
from Clarendon, wasn't he? You remember? He wrote the paperwork.
Yeah. I just couldn't remember his name because I'm going to make sure he's put on the mailing list. Thank you ever so much, June Elizabeth. That's very kind. Thank you. So we're putting in this tithe application, and this is how it might look, but I'm not going through all the detail of that. So that was just to tell you about that.
Yeah.
Then just to smile and say that Pennants, believe it or not, actually had a gold mine. And because Coy was the head of the mining services for Jamaica, he was given a gold tie pin.
Okay.
And you can see it here. He's got it in a precious box. So that was interesting.
Okay.
Anyway, we've also been linking at the upper levels, and this is the new Custos, Edith Chin. William Shagori was the previous Custos, and this is the Governor General. And so she's just had her induction, and this is our Lord Lieutenant in Wales. So we're actually trying to do a formal link between Gwynedd, which is the county that Bangor and Penrhyn Castle's in, and Clarendon.
Okay.
So this is the new mayor of Maypen, and his name's Joel Williams. Well, you probably realise Williams is a Welsh name. And then we've also met the other mayors over the years. Mayor Councillor Milton Brown was particularly important because he challenged the Pennant family in 2007, and the Pennant family promised reparations and then never did anything. Skian Barneswell I met the first time I was there, Winston Mirage, and now Joel Williams. So we're trying to operate at that kind of high level. And
and you know, Clarendon was once linked with the London Borough of Haringey.
Oh, was it? How?
Yeah, because just before COVID, the mayor, I'd asked the mayor, would they endorse the re-establishing the link with Clarendon, even though our family's from St. Mary, but my father actually lives in Maypen.
Oh, right.
So yeah, because of COVID, we never did anything about it. But yeah, a few years ago, there was that link.
Yeah, so that would be really interesting to look at. So Bangor's reasonably serious about it. They have asked one or two questions, and then we can look ahead at what we can do. So really, that's kind of where we're at, isn't it, Vivian? I think if you understand. But I'll just update you on the latest thing in vaguest terms, and that is that yesterday we were able to meet with another member of the Douglas Pennant family, and he's the family tree is very, very fragmented, and so he and his sister are going to look to how they can work with us. So as I say, I'm not sure if I said to you or I was talking earlier that we've got 6 projects that we're looking at. You know, the basic school, the primary school, the community centre. Creating a band. We're buying instruments for a band because June Elizabeth's husband donated a lot of instruments that the High Commissioner took over for the band. Also study support and a heritage project, because the heritage of the community is very significant, because the named person is Robert Rumble. Robert Rumble was the leader of the tenants' strike in 1938 that caused the plantations to be sold. So that's lovely.
Is that around the sugar riots time? Is that part?
It was around the same time, and it's important. Because it was when the labour riots were going all across the Caribbean, but it appears that it was the only kind of community initiated project. So it's very significant that the tenants went on strike against Lord Penrhyn in 1938. By 1940, all the plantations had been sold. But back in Wales, the previous Lord Penrhyn had faced the biggest strike in British history in the slate quarries.
Right.
So obviously his management techniques were about as awful in Wales as what his managers and overseers were doing in Jamaica. So yeah, really very difficult. So that's that in a nutshell. So really the door is open to us linking with Llandudno. So what do you know about the Llandudno history?
Well, just because this project, we only started it 25th of March. So interesting you asked that, because and Vivian would know, Paul Burke. So the Burke family, a very significant family in that part of St. Thomas, Llandudno. And when they mentioned the name, I just said, oh, let me find out where, you know, because obviously having that name, where in Wales is Llandudno, and what was the potential link? And in fact, after Paul Bogle was executed, all the Welsh people left the area, apparently. So there doesn't seem to have been any sort of ongoing cultural historical link between Llandudno, which is quite.
So when you say all the Welsh people left the area, so after Paul Bogle was
after the
killed,
1865 Governor Eyre activities. So it's just something that Paul Burke mentioned, because the Burke family again go right back to those early days that I mentioned in 1941 with the village hall. It was their land that they donated to the community.
So the Burkes were the plantation owning family.
That's quite interesting. I'm not sure, but they're major landholders, owners in the area. Whether they were offshoot from the Welsh plantation owners in the area, I'm not sure, but they are bound up. All right,
yeah,
Dr.
just to say yes.
Yes.
Boy, what Rudi is doing is so rich that we need another 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
Because sadly, as you speak, Rudi, it's so sad for me that a lot of the history of our beloved country, a lot of the history of our beloved country does not exist in any records for access. And it is very sad. Because as you spoke about the Welsh occupied St. Thomas, a place that is called Yallas.
Yallas, yes.
And that parish was called St. Thomas in the east.
Okay.
And then it merged in 1867 with St. Thomas as one. But the Welsh, when you go to Yallas today, you go into St. David's Church. That was parish church, St. David's Church.
Yeah.
And the Burke family, Rudolph Burke, a very, very outstanding Jamaican. It is even said, if the PNP had won the election in 1962, he would have been Governor General, Rudolph Burke. And though his children went to Jamaica College, etc., etc. But the Burke family are associated with the Llandudno. So you're telling me Llandudno is a Welsh name?
Yes. Yeah.
And the Burke is a Welsh name?
I
Not
guess
that I'm familiar with.
I don't know so much about that side,
okay,
to be honest.
But this is
but the Burke family, that is, because there's an area of about 1,300 acres which they set aside for the community. You got Judgment Cliff and all those stories.
Oh yes, Judgment Cliff. Don't go into that today. The person who owned it was from Holland.
Really?
And it is alleged that his let us say his relationship with his children, his girls, was immoral.
Right.
And so when the earthquake 1692
that's right,
took off part of the mountainside, the humble people said it is God's judgment on him. Hence the name Judgment Cliff.
Okay. Yes, that's right.
The scar on the mountainside is still there today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, okay. Now we've got June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gully with us. So June Elizabeth, would you like to come in? And then I've got a message from Joan. Okay, June Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Rudy,
Hi,
Dr.
hi.
Vivian. Hiya. Yeah, I just wanted to say, because maybe you're not aware that I'm doing an MA and I'm just trying to start my dissertation, and I'm going to do something with Jamaica and England, Britain, right? So I'm trying to get the title right. But when you just mentioned Burke, I've got this book, The History of Jamaica. You might have this book, right? And
I've seen it. I haven't got it though. I've seen that.
Okay. They said there was a small group, this is to do with the Morant Bay Rebellion. There was a small group of members led by Samuel Constantine Burke, who opposed the surrender of the Constitution to the end. Burke on one occasion rose up in the House and said that the Assembly must have gone mad. Okay, I'll just leave it like that. So the name Burke goes, as you were saying, and Dr. Vivian, you know, very big name.
Yeah, thank you for that, June. That's really Elizabeth, because I speak with Paul Burke quite regularly, and so he really has got that family history in his head when you speak to him.
That's fantastic. And you know, we're making all these connections as we go along. Vivian? Vivian, I can't hear you.
You're mute.
Apology. First of all, to thank Dr. Rudi for this fantastic presentation. He has evoked our curiosity. And as I said earlier, this could go on for 3 weeks. The first thing is with regard to Windrush. Is it possible by public subscription that a plaque be placed at the harbor where the ship left from Jamaica? Because after a time, a generation will grow up, and if it is not in the library, then they will not know. We are starving in our country in terms of our historical records. So I'm asking whether it was the bottom of King Street the ship left from, or from what is now the cement company. I do not know. So if we could have a monument with an anchor on it by public subscription, the names of all those who contribute will be recorded, and that be presented to the National Library of Jamaica, which is next door, so that next 5,000 years, we will know who contributed. That's one. The second thing, I was truly moved when Dr. Rose and yourself spoke about the involvement in primary schools. I have begun, I do a radio presentation, doing it now for 5 years on a Monday morning about our heritage. And in February, I started with the primary schools of Jamaica. Shocking, shocking, shocking. There is no 99.9 record of the head teachers of those schools. Nobody knows who their teachers were. It is a disgrace. It is a tragedy. So I am now challenging the school boards, not the school head teachers, because they have too much. The school boards and the community to start writing a history about each primary school. I understand Dr. Rose say she's involved with 5. We need to know their teachers. As we speak on Monday, I'll be continuing the series in Portland. And you spoke about Philip Sherlock. I'll be speaking about him because his brother wrote the national anthem. He was Vice Chancellor at the University of the West Indies, and he was born in Mansion Hill. I'll be speaking about Port Antonio Primary School, where, of course, the present Chief Justice, he went to that primary school, and so on. It's a very long list. So I'm saying that in your association with these schools, if you could engage them to start, let the community start using the school as the central point, as you said, to write about this story of our school. When Dr. Rose told me that she's from Inverness, right? Inverness, you said. Your district, Dr. Rose?
I'm actually from Paradise.
No, your district in St. Anne.
No, I'm not from
no.
St. Anne. I'm from St. Elizabeth.
St. Elizabeth. Oh, someone on the program told me that she's from Inverness. Oh, you're
No,
from
maybe this is
Paradise.
another one. Yeah.
Oh,
That's another one.
well, if you're from Paradise, we need to put the plum to it.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm saying that in your interaction with the schools, please, as that they begin using the school as the focal point to write about their community.
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
teachers,
Yeah.
for God's sake.
Yeah.
By the way, all the pastors were at Yalas, St. David's Church, from its establishment. It's on the board there at Yalas.
Yeah. Okay. Because a couple of things that you said there. The one of the things I'd said to our Baptist colleagues, you know, that given it would be it's either this year or next year's 160th anniversary of Paul Bogle becoming a Baptist minister, and I was trying to get them to do something in Jamaica and to mark the occasion, because you said the great churches are still there from the time.
Yes.
But there hasn't really been much movement on that. And then the earlier point that you made about the monument. So in 2021, I spent 3 hours speaking with the Ministry of Culture, talking about the importance of the upcoming 75th anniversary, and that we should have something at the harbour. And I said a simple plaque on the basis that it's not going to be that expensive, etc., etc. So there's a lot of yeses, and up to now, you know, nothing's happened. And then I did hear that they were going to contract Basil Watson to do something, but again, nothing's come of that.
Well,
we still have to keep pushing to get.
Well, it's not even pushing. Let me shock you.
Yeah.
Everything is budgeted for.
Yeah.
They have to budget, and they have to present it to the parliament, and they have to justify. And life has taught me there's a principle in management which is very useful. It is called the Moses principle. Because if Moses had formed a committee, the children of Israel would still be in Egypt. So we sometimes move away from the traditional path. Sometimes, in my case, when I went to the Institute of Jamaica in 2000, when I went to Spanish Town Square, there was nothing to mention that from that square, Jamaica's greatest piece of legislation was read, the abolition of slavery. All I saw a man selling cane and guinea. And I launched we said, public subscription. The Ministry of Finance drew me over the coals, but I had no apology. Moses too was run over the sea. So we got $40,000. You go to Spanish Town Square. We don't own it. We don't say it's the institute. There is the plaque there to say from the steps, the act for the abolition of slavery was read. And I assure you, Dr. Page, if you start that this is going to be done, something significant with the anchor, let people passing by ask, what that? And it's the message. I am telling you, it will spin.
Yeah, I agree with you, because it was only my determination why we actually got the National Committee for the Windrush celebrations in Jamaica last year. And, you know, and if you know the price that had to be paid in order, because as a matter of principle, I said that it's going to be marked in Jamaica for the 75th. And another interesting thing that you said about Spanish Town, because next year is the 370th anniversary in terms of British in Jamaica. So now you've given me a significant point to use in terms of Spanish Town, because the former mayor of Spanish Town gave me a picture.
Oh.
We did a health event in the mayor's parlor in Spanish Town, and I always felt it had that old sort of very historic place where a lot of bad decisions were made about people, you know. So I don't know if you can kind of see that.
No,
Oh, you
it's
probably
the keep moving it around, will you? Go back a bit with it. Go back a bit because it's got to get, or take your screen, whatever. Go back
Yeah.
a bit further. Back a bit further. Yes,
There.
we can see a bit of it. Go back a bit further, or come forward. Come forward. Forward slightly. Yeah, a fantastic photograph. Fantastic. If you can switch that thing off that you've got on your screen, then, but you might not want to. But we
can't
can
see
see
it.
it now.
all right. If I took my background off,
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't
Okay.
think.
yeah, let me just try that, because this building, because every now and again I look at it and think, why have I got this picture? I should give it
It's
away.
beautiful.
It's lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
lovely.
it says the old
Okay.
King's house was built in 1762. The interior was destroyed by fire in 1925. Photographed by Dwight Sims, 10th of 10/05/04. Yeah. So I better keep that. I better keep the picture now. I'll give it away.
Rudi, just tell me about this 375th anniversary of
Yeah,
the British landing in Jamaica.
yeah, you know, because you know it was 1655.
1655.
Yeah.
So
So
next year
the
it'll
next
be
year,
2000 and
370th anniversary. So I was thinking, because it's not a kind of round number like 400, 350, and I was thinking, well, what can we do? We need to mark the occasion. So the fact that Vivian said that, you know, that proclamation was done in Spanish Town,
yeah.
there's a reason now to give that focus, that historical focus.
Yeah. What about the National Trust in Jamaica, Vivian? Where have you gone? We'll ask him in a minute.
Yeah, because funny enough, I've been speaking with Evelyn Thompson. I think she's the director. But yeah, I hadn't thought of marking that occasion, because she tried to assist. You know, you've got the International National Heritage Trust, they're based in London. So they had an event last year down in Bar. And again, it was all about the legacies and stuff like that. But you know,
the National Trust here would be a good contact.
Yeah, I'm in touch with them. That's Evelyn Thompson.
Yeah, you a member?
No,
Yeah.
no.
I'm a member.
Are you okay?
So am I. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I thought with
I think this 370th anniversary is really, really important. And as I think the commemoration on the dock in Kingston is really, really important. And I think the idea of having a replica of the anchor is really very possible and very appropriate.
No, absolutely, because linked to that, getting back to the education and the environment and the sustainable goals. So what I've arranged with an artist based in St. Thomas, he's former school teacher. He is a school teacher, I should say. It's the young people collecting all the bottles and things and what have you. We're actually going to have a replica of the Windrush anchor made from recycled bottles. So again, that's how we make that link with heritage, environment. So
So might it be possible that there's two anchors, one that he puts in Portland or wherever, and one that goes to Kingston, or would this one be the one that goes to Kingston?
I would like to see one in every parish, because the Windrush generation, they came from every parish.
Yeah, every parish. Yeah,
So
but
that
if it's
by
something that
2030,
could be,
by
yeah,
2030, that's why.
That's ambitious.
I think. But I think if it's made of plastic bottles, then the likelihood is that if he could explain how to make it, you've got to make, how many parishes are there? 15. You've got to make 15 of these.
14.
But 14,
14.
and then the
Well, they've
schools
estimated it's about 2,500 bottles that you need, right? And I'll tell you how easy that is. Last year, when we got the young people to do the coastal cleanup just on Mesga Run Beach in St. Thomas, in 3 hours they collected 1,100 bottles, and that's not even a very popular beach. 1,100. So it's not going to be difficult to collect.
I think it's a wonderful idea. So we've got a whole lot of things spinning out of this Black History conversation, which is just absolutely amazing. It's been a really, really productive conversation.
The Liz Millman Institute.
Yeah. and you know the
Liz
other
Millman,
important,
yeah.
the other important thing, Liz, around all of this, and it touches on what both Rose and Vivian were saying, is that you see I've got at the top there Jamaica 2030. So you've got Vision 2030, right?
Yeah.
Vision Jamaica 2030. It has 4 simple goals around, first one, human potential, second one around security, third one around prosperity, the fourth one around the environment. And the Jamaican government started on that work in 2006. And at the moment, and because it aligns with the overall Sustainable Development Goals 2030, that's when they're going to review them again. Just like when we had the Millennium Development Goals that then became Sustainable Development Goals. So what's being said now with some of the people I work with, academics, is that they know that they're behind. So what I've been saying, so what the term is that they're talking about, what can we do to accelerate towards achieving the 2030 goals, right? So I've been saying, okay, let's use 2024 as preparation and help educate people to understand Vision 2030. The PIOJ is this responsible delivery agency for Jamaica 2030. But more importantly, from 2025 to 2030, that gives us a natural 5-year plan to do all these activities and get, mobilize communities and get everybody to understand. Because
I think
everything's set out, all the documents, all the policy documents, 30 different sector plans, it's all there, but again, there's no adherence and public understanding or awareness and understanding how they can get involved and be involved. And we're saying to young people on some of the online platforms, we say to them, how old will you be in 2030? And some of that is going to be about your responsibility as a young person.
I think what you're saying is very manageable, and I think it's, oh gosh, it's just so much potential. Okay, my apologies if sometimes I kind of sound as if I'm losing the plot, but it's 1 o'clock in the morning here.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to work out what else we need to talk about. So Rudi, this is just the most brilliant conversation, and Rose, how fortuitous, and that we've got June Elizabeth as well, and Joan and Roland's joined us as well, which is wonderful, from Windrush, Justice for Windrush Generations. So if I can just say, oh dear, I've forgotten to oh dear Lord,
Rose and June Elizabeth,
bear with me, folky wokies. I am vaguely here. All right. So just to say that it's also, this is, and Rosie, you can come in as well. Just to say that Jones just put in the chat that Saturday was the 65th anniversary of Kelso Cochrane being killed at Notting Hill, Ladbroke Grove, and a plaque was unveiled where he was living. So the house was demolished to make way for the West Way. Many of his family members were there, and it was an open air event to unveil the plaque. And they had a service at the local church in the evening. So, you know, it's important to remember, isn't it? Rose and Rose and whoever else has got their hand up, June Elizabeth. Rose first and June Elizabeth, if that's all right.
As I was listening to you, Rudi, about the 5 years, 25 to 30, and thinking back to earlier parts of the conversation, I still go back to what are the schools doing? What are the local education directorates doing? How are principal meetings surfacing these sorts of issues? And certainly from this meeting, I shall be doing two things. One is picking up Vivian's point about the history of each school and doing my part with the head teachers, the principals that I'm involved with in Jamaica, but also asking each of them to put that on the agenda for their local meetings, so that we get something, you know, we almost go a district wide. This is me, Vivian. I've moved from my 5 schools to district wide. You know, try and get that.
I'm always happy to come online and explain.
Yeah. So it's the history of each school. That's the one thing. And I will sponsor, I'm happy to sponsor as much as I can on that, giving them a structure. Vivian, perhaps you can send me something and I can build a structure so they have, you know, so they all have a similar sort of approach. And I can, you know, and it's easier often if people have a little structure, they could then populate it. Right, and that can make it easy, and then I can help them to get it published, if you like. So there's that, and then there's your bit, Rudi, which is, you know, yeah, okay, go for those 5 years, and I get it. So it's prep this year, action, you know, thereafter. And I think, you know, there must be a simple. You talk about we've got lots of policies, lots of things that are already in place, but it's like moving it.
The implementation that's missing.
Yeah, and I wonder, Rudi, whether there's a very simplified version, you know, something like, if nothing else, you know, can you do these, you know, these 6 things or 10 things? That would really help in me trying to push where I can, you know, with the few contacts that I have in Jamaica. And I'm very happy to do that because I see the need, I see the importance of it.
Yeah, I think what you could do then, Rose, because in August, as part of our 1st of August celebrations, independence, we're doing about 3 hours online where people come on, talk about all the different family members and all that kind of stuff. And we will be talking about this whole 2030 and breaking it down to work out how, so that, because it's about access. And if we're talking about widening participation, improving public understanding. So we're going to have a session where we just talk about that and get the different ideas. Those of us who've been involved in delivery of information, helping the public understand, access things. So yeah, so you can certainly come on that. That will be helpful. And that's a good idea to create. You got a simple form, because what I found with which I've always pushed, say to people, look, because we, you know, a lot of the time the elders remember the principal and remember the teachers' names, you know, and so it's around in people's minds. So,
can I make a suggestion? And that is, I'm sure Vivian's coming in on this as well, but the Jamaica Memory Bank, the new director there is Dr. Kurt Henry, and he's spoken on our sessions. If you work with the Jamaica Memory Bank, Rose, so that they will they'll put it into their system, and then all these books will be held in the Jamaica Memory Bank in Kingston.
Yeah, very happy to do that, because and that's why I was thinking of a sort of basic structure, because I often feel that people just need a bit of, a little bit of sort of motivation,
yeah.
Yeah.
And if it comes from an educational point of view as well,
mm,
it might be a little easier to
I-
action
yeah, I tell you
rather
who.
than
Sorry.
other ways that when you're recording, personal histories and things like that to go in the memory bank, there's a lot more restrictions to it. I haven't forgotten you, June Elizabeth. Okay. Rudy, anything else?
Yeah, very quickly added to that. I don't know, have you ever had Dr. Lola Ramakan on your...
Oh, Dr. Lola Ramakan is our patron, dear.
Right, so you know her program, Community Helpers. So we did a lot to help amplify that online. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
so she's part of the delegation who are at Augusttown Primary School, JC College, and Papine High School on next week, on the 28th of May. And so, again, that Community Helpers book, we could, because it's quite easy to understand, so we could relate that to the 2030 program.
That's really interesting, and it would be really good. The Director of Education in Clarendon is a guy called Dr. Barrington Richardson, and he is most approachable and very receptive to any sorts of ideas. So I'm sure hearing about these sorts of things would interest him, and then he can then go on and inspire the schools.
This would be a good time then to link with Haringey, because the 3 boroughs that are linked with the Windrush program in Jamaica are Enfield, Haringey, and Brent. So and I just did a small event last week in Wood Green Library. So with the Windrush, so I said that next year we wanted to make a clearer link between the community, Wood Green Library, and then Jamaica, all under this Windrush Anchor Heritage program.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Just on a personal note, I went to college in Reading, but then I went on to teach in Haringey, and I lived in Enfield, so I know the area very well. So how interesting that that's the area. Yes, because we've obviously got to make it manageable for if Clarendon thinks that it's being, there's two cities in the UK fighting over links, but let's have it supportive. Right, June Elizabeth, Whitesmith Gully, you're sitting so still, I thought you were a photograph.
Okay, I just sent you an email because I don't know, because I was at the funeral, I don't know if I missed you at the beginning, if you mentioned the flags.
No, I didn't, and that's the next thing that I'm going to I'm just going to take off your email is you've kindly sent the list of the
countries. Yes,
the countries.
Yeah,
sorry, yeah, I am struggling
to
so
I'll just let you know.
I'm just going to put them on a PowerPoint, and then we're just going to have a look at them. So just wait while I do that, Pokey Wokies,
your
because
and
June
while
Elizabeth,
you're doing that,
right, yeah, carry on, June Elizabeth.
I was going to say, Rudy and Rose, when you're doing anything, if you want me to give a support, I'm an action lady. I just come in, do what I can do. If I can't do much, I'll give some finance. And what Dr. Vivian says, sometimes there's a lot of red tape, but if you got money, you can just jump over the red tape and take them with you. You understand? Yeah. So with the plaque now, the anchor plaque at the river, not the river, the sea, where the harbour. I mean, you can establish the cost of how much it's going to be. I think maybe we might get most of the funding from over here. Or, private donations as well. And got so much red tape around it, because I'd be quite happy to get some private donations towards it.
I
Yeah.
think that would be a lovely thing to do from this meeting. And if I
Yes.
can say, my colleague Yasser Safari, I'll just switch this off for a minute and then we go back to it. Yasser Safari worked so hard in 2020, they were going to start the 5-year build up to 2025, doing functions, creative arts functions and poetry at the harbour. But because of COVID, they weren't able to go ahead. And then they kind of lost the momentum, I gather. They got a radio programme that was going to do something. So it would be lovely to bring everybody together on that. It would be so special and something that was, you know, generated out of these Black History
Yes. Yes.
conversations.
Yes. And
Let me just
I've got
show you
friends in
June
St.
Elizabeth's thing
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got
first.
family in St. Thomas. And my husband, he's got not a plantation, what do you call it, like a farm in St. Thomas, and it's Cedar Valley at the bottom of the Blue Mountain, because that's where he done the Blue Mountain coffee, you see. And then with Clarendon, that's where most of my ancestors, my grandparents maternally come from. And I'm a part of the Pennants family as well. So I'm interested in Jamaica generally, from top to bottom. All right, I'll leave Liz to come in now.
Okay, well, just to say that you sent this message to say that Nigel Guy from the Windrush National Association, he and 2 others had recently funded a self-funded a 2-week Caribbean tour. And the majority of the 9 sovereign nations in the Caribbean will be raising the standard for Windrush today to mark the historical sailing of the Empire Windrush from the Caribbean to the UK. And yes, I wish I was there too. But these are the countries Joan Elizabeth has explained. We've got Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Barbados, and Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Grenada. And I think it's important to remember that people came from all these countries. Sometimes we talk a lot about Jamaica, I have to confess. Okay, so that's that. And now, if it's all right, Rudi, I just want to talk about this at the moment. Welcome to Ivor. Ivor's joining us from Clarendon, and we'll just have an update from you in a minute, Ivor. But we're just going to find out a little bit about this that you sent me, which I can find absolutely no reference to on Google, but I'm Googling from Australia, so sometimes I don't get the stuff
when
right.
I said to you chat GPT, you sent me a question mark.
I didn't know what chat GPT
so
was.
That's the AI. You know, they keep talking about AI all the time. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so chat GPT is one of these super
Well, how do you get into it?
Well, if you just Google chat GPT, you can just sign up and sign in, and it just has billions and billions of information, and you can get all kinds of knowledge.
But so let's read through this, because it's so exciting. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, everybody loves it.
Just to say, in the 19th century, so that's the 1800s, there was a significant link between Llanddewi, sometimes spelled Llanddewi. Llan means church, Dewi means saint.
Is it? Oh, right,
saint.
okay. Yeah.
Llanddewi in the United Kingdom and Jamaica. So it's actually in Wales and Jamaica due to the transatlantic slave trade and plantation economy. Llanddewi, located in Wales, which is somewhere in South Wales. I haven't actually pinpointed where it is because the spelling's different. And I think it's called Llanddewi Minor. Yeah.
I'm just googling it because I've never heard of that place in Wales, but it seems like it's basically now in Swansea. It seems to be south of Swansea.
Yeah, that's right. Because you know, boundary changes and population shifts and things get, you know.
Joan, what's it called? How's it spelt? Your one that you found, Joan.
They're spelling it LLANDDEWY.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Because I sent you
with
some
the double
additional
Llanddewi, yeah. Llanddewi. Okay, so Llanddewi located in Wales, so it's near Swansea. That makes sense. Swansea by the coast was one of the many ports involved in the trade of goods, including those produced by enslaved labour in the Caribbean, particularly sugar, rum and other commodities. Welsh merchants and ship owners played a role in the transportation of goods, including enslaved Africans, between Wales and the Caribbean. And we know that to be true because if you think about it, Wales is in between Liverpool and Bristol. And one of the things that Professor Chris Evans says, who's written the book Slave Wales, one of the things that he says is that Wales wasn't rich enough to have a major shipping port. Wales only had little ports, but in those little ports around Wales, like Pwllheli, there's the records of the shipbuilders in Pwllheli fitting out a Guinea man for something like 825 enslaved people. So they knew exactly what they were doing. And so it's really interesting. But this transportation of goods, the transportation of goods would come up between, I think it came up between Ireland and Wales, that way into Liverpool, rather than going round Ireland and down. So it'd come up that way. And Anglesey sticks out. Anglesey is a big island in North Wales. It sticks out a bit from the coast. So Anglesey, sometimes the ship stopped off first in Anglesey and unloaded stuff there because there was there were big traders in even the little village of Menabridge. It only looks little now. And then obviously because Liverpool was right there, then the hinterland of Liverpool didn't just include Lancashire and Cheshire and the Wirral, it also included North Wales, Flintshire and places. So it's really interesting. And then South Wales, of course, was in the hinterland of Bristol. So it makes an awful lot of sense, this. And ships departed from Llanddewi loaded with goods to trade in Jamaica. So there was also trading going on direct between Wales and the plantation areas because they needed so much taking over. For example, Barmouth, they used to ship a lot of Welsh wool out of Barmouth to clothe the enslaved workers. There was a cloth called Welsh Plains, which was specifically created by rural I was going to say peasant, I can't think of a politer term, peasant workers in mid Wales, and they would produce the cloth that was specifically called Welsh Plains, that was specifically for the trade. So, and then they'd carry commodities produced on Jamaican plantations back to Wales and other parts of the United Kingdom. Makes absolute sense. And furthermore, these individuals from Llanddewi were involved in plantation ownership and management in Jamaica. So we have to find out who they are. And yesterday we had a real breakthrough meeting we had with the Penance Project, and we actually invited Professor Catherine Hall, who developed the UCL database, and she we can now talk to her and make sure that we can find out these things rather than sort of vaguenesses. So these Welsh merchants. And then the last bit, this historical link illustrates the interconnectedness of regions across the Atlantic during the 19th century, driven by trade, colonialism and exploitation of enslaved labour. So yeah, a fascinating piece, and fascinating that you found it on this AI platform.
GPT.
So
do you know,
but what we need to do now is to fill that out. So we know there are various other
I mean, it's good that the information that you've actually put around it as well, though, Liz, because
it makes absolute sense. And if we can get there, because Henry Morgan, the well-known pirate,
didn't he come from Wales?
Henry Morgan came from relatively near there. It's actually about probably 50 miles away. He came from I can't remember the name. Something Hall. It'll come to me in a minute. And it's Tredegar Hall was where his family was. And then there's this Llanrumney. You know Llanrumney in Wales, in Jamaica, Llanrumney. Clanrumney's
Yes,
in St
yeah,
Anne.
because that's one of the
Yeah.
places. That's one of the other names that I
Yeah.
noticed.
So the story about that is that the house, Clanrumney Hall, which is just outside Cardiff, it's in a very rough area, but it's surrounded by grass, but like there's a huge sort of public housing estate there, and it's well known as a rough area. Anyway, they somebody's invested in buying the place and doing it up. It was quite run down and ruined looking. But if you look at Llanrumney Hall in Cardiff, it looks exactly like a great house in Jamaica. It looks just like Rose Hall.
Yeah,
it's quite uncanny.
Yeah, there is a
and,
place. Okay.
And that's where Henry Morgan came from. But Henry Morgan, well, if I just digress a little bit, but Henry Morgan must have gone out as an entrepreneur, buccaneer, pirate, looking to intercept the Spanish galleon. I don't know, you call a lot of ships together, I can't think of the word. Like a flotilla of galleons would be going across the Atlantic with their protection ships from South America, and Henry Morgan and his pirates, they were attacking those. Good, Vivian's coming to give me the words. So Henry Morgan, sorry, carry on, Vivian.
Thank you, Liz. I was just saying that he was endorsed by the colonial government because he was made a governor.
Governor in the end, he got the top.
And he had lands in Clarendon, Morgan's Pass.
Yeah.
Morgan's Harbour.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Lots of evidence. But what's interesting is that he started as a pirate buccaneer, but it must have come from quite a well-to-do family. So it looks like the sort of second and third, fourth sons of families sometimes took this opportunity, and quite early. And from the area in North Wales, a guy called Pierce Griffith, he went out in the 1500s, and he actually captured a Spanish galleon, this Welsh privateer. No, he wasn't a privateer then, he was like a buccaneer pirate. He captured this Spanish galleon and he brought it back to Bangor, and he unloaded all this wonderful cargo. You know, pirates have always got, you know, silk things on and gold and jewels and everything. Well, this was all the wealth that the Spanish were bringing out of South America. And then the records in Carnarvon Court, because he then was operating, I think, as a privateer. So when you bring the wealth back, you have to share so much of it with the government, and you keep the rest. And the schools in Bangor aren't even telling this story. And I'm thinking, you've got a pirate on your doorstep. And then, so those sorts of stories. And then Henry Morgan was a lot later, but Henry Morgan, Vivian, was of the time when Jamaica was invaded in 1655. It was the time when Oliver Cromwell was, and the Parliament were the government in Britain. And then by 1560, the King Charles II had been accepted and he was back on the throne. So people like Henry Morgan, who'd been doing things, and Gifford Pennant particularly, who'd been part of Cromwell's forces, they wouldn't have wanted to have gone back to Britain because Britain was under a different regime. So it was safer for them, and they were needed in Jamaica, so they weren't being penalised for being part of the parliamentary government invading forces. So therefore they were better off staying in Jamaica rather than going back to England. And then, like, I think Admiral Bembo, was it the one who did the invasion? When he went back, he got into all kinds of trouble when he got back to Britain because he'd been on the wrong side.
Raleigh.
Yeah.
Admiral Raleigh.
Walter Raleigh.
Raleigh, yes.
So it's just
don't blame the schools. You're saying that the schools are not, it is not taught. Neither is it taught in Jamaica. So don't blame Bangor. It is we're all in the same boat.
I think it's absolutely fascinating. Do you know Anthony Gifford, Vivian?
Of course. He's a member of the Reparation Council, I've told, perhaps I haven't shared this story with the people of the Liz Millman Institute. We sat beside each other at the meetings, and he told me that in his school, he went to Winchester College, Lord Anthony Gifford. He said that he was never taught anything about enslavement. That was bad. But he went to Abuja at a conference when he was a practicing attorney. And when he heard of the horrors of enslavement, he cried like a baby. And while he was speaking with me, Liz, he was crying. He was bawling. You know that word, bawling?
I know that word, bawling, yes. Yes.
Well, and then I said to him, you went to the right school, because Winchester College, where Bishop Ken was the principal, he defied the rules in England at the time, which said that hymns could only be written based on words from the Bible. Otherwise, you would be sent to the tower and you would return bereft of your head. And he defied all of that and wrote this beautiful hymn, which we still sing today. Glory to thee, my God, this night, for all the blessings of the light. So here we go.
Now, next question, I'm taking the floor here, but it's such an opportunity to have such wonderful, wonderful people to talk with. Mona Greathouse, Vivian, the guy who lived there and his wife, I can't remember either of their names, but I think his first name's Anthony.
Well, many persons live there. On your way to the universities on the right, after you pass the Mona High School on a mound. And after that,
they actually lived in what was the Mona Greathouse, and he's written a book on pirates, and she wrote children's books.
Oh, I don't know if they have been endorsed by the Liz Millman Institute, so we might have to move
absolutely
on.
Excellent. But I can't for the life of me remember his name, because I would love to follow up, because he knows a lot about the pirates, and I think that I hated talking about piracy, and I hate the sort of Johnny Depp type piracy.
It was
but
legitimate.
It was what it was. Yeah,
it was. And I hasten to ask, what was morality in England like? Because on the one hand, you had the Reformation, you had the church, and everybody was holy and pious, and yet you were endorsing these brutalities. What was morality in England like, except that Sir Thomas Fowell Buxton could take a letter written from Jamaica to help 311 enslaved Jamaicans now to be free, and founded an educational system? It's a rhetorical question. What was morality in England like?
Yeah.
Well, I've said more than once that there are many times when I'm not at all proud to be British. In fact, I was having a big discussion with somebody who came to our coffee morning this morning, and they were saying, and I said, you know, tell me something good that Britain has done for the world in history. And it's pretty.
Don't blame yourself,
thin
Liz.
on
You
the
were
ground.
not there. You were not there. We were not there. But what they have done for us, please, they have opened our eyes.
Well, I suppose that's one way of looking at it.
They kept good records.
Oh, that's a good one.
And
I have to say, when Lola Ramakan and her husband, Seth George Ramakan, the High Commissioner, came to Bangor, we invited them to Bangor to come and have a look at all the things there. And he was giving his presentation, and he said, standing in the hall, we had about 200 people in the hall, packed in. Everybody was dying to meet the Jamaican High Commissioner. And he said, and I have to thank the Pennant family. And he speaks quite deliberately like that. Have to thank the Pennant family. Well, you could have heard a pin drop in the hall, I tell you. What on earth would we want to thank them for? And he said, I'd like to thank the Pennant family for keeping their records and passing them on. Because so many British families, you know, shovel the records out to the bonfire and burnt them because they didn't want to be associated with such things.
Yeah.
Okay, then. So we'll just go around the screen and see what else people want to add, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. So Rudi first, what would you like to tell us about
Two quick
anything
points.
else?
One of my primary schools was William Penn, and of course he was with our friend
Venables.
Oliver Cromwell in Jamaica, but they
Yes.
never told us that. Well, you know, as a primary school, who this William Penn was. It was only years
Well,
later.
they have Captain Cook primary schools out here in Jamaica and Australia, I tell you. Yeah.
General
Great.
Venables and William Penn.
Yeah,
They were the two guys.
exactly. And then just very quickly, so do you know April Louise Pennant?
Oh, sorry, she's the next one on the slides. Just a minute.
All right,
Sorry about that. I'd forgotten to.
She's in Jamaica at the moment, actually.
Yeah, she is. She's in penance at the moment. And Ivor, are you still there?
Yeah. Yes, Liz, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes,
How did you get on today with April Louise?
Yesterday was Labor Day, so it's our labor. But
Yeah.
tomorrow we'll be going to her roots in Kellett
Okay.
Oh.
tomorrow morning. Yeah, she wanted to rediscover her roots in Kellett, so that's where we're heading for tomorrow morning.
That's fantastic. So yesterday
Yeah.
was Labor Day,
Yeah.
and you were all busy doing things.
Yes,
So the day before, April Louise was in penance with you.
yes.
And what did she do in penance, Ivor? Where did you take her?
A few interviews with the other persons, and she also went by the Great House in Penance, remains of the Great House, the remains of it, and the Thomas River. She went by the Thomas River as well, and had some photo taken of those things. Yes.
Ivor,
So,
please tell her I said hello.
All right, we'll do.
Thank you.
Lovely.
That's it from me.
In fact, we say about the records at Penance Great House. We were told that the person who were living there now and captured the land, captured, record books were thrown into the tank. So all those records are gone. Some huge books are there.
Gosh. It's quite the one obvious place at Pennant's Great House. There's like a low level ruin at the side and the house built on the back of that. But there's this great big tank, and to think that these records were thrown in there. Still, I suppose they
But also I was told that there are some tombs there which we need to go back and look at them. I don't know if they have names for them out here, so we just go back and look at them.
And we can possibly get some work done to clear the churchyard maybe when we come over, so we can find some more of the graves. Ivor, thank you very much indeed. I'm just going back to share the screen just so that everybody else knows what April Louise Pennant's doing. She's a postgraduate researcher from Cardiff University, and she's on this Lever Hume Early Career Fellowship, and she's exploring the hidden histories of enslaved Africans in Jamaica whose exploitation produced the capital that built Penrhyn Castle and the surrounding estates in North Wales. So April Louise herself, a descendant of the family that, oops, Daisy, where's she gone? Of a family that worked on some of the 5 Jamaican plantations, 4 in Clarendon and 1 in Westmoreland, owned by the owned by the Pennant family in North Wales. And she hopes the research will support the co-creation of new educational resources with alternative narratives of transatlantic slavery and open up discussions and decolonize the Welsh plantation economic histories. So a fantastic piece of work she's doing. And Ivor, I can't thank you enough. And I think Clifford was with you, and Leonora, as well as your lovely wife, Hyacinth. I saw them on the photographs. Yeah. So have another lovely day with her, and it would be really interesting. So when you get to Kellits, there's the lovely Hyacinth with you, Ivor. When you get to Kellits, will you, take note, take lots of photographs, because these other plantations that the Pennants owned, we haven't been a bit good at doing any contacts or anything there, but it would be really interesting to know. And there's Coates Pen as well.
Coates Pen, yes.
Coates Pen.
I made contact down there. I made contact there. I have a past
Right.
student who lives there.
Lovely.
So he will take us around.
She'll also need to go to Denby, the showground.
Yes, and also to Thompson Town area where the Pennants were living. They have the portion there. They have parents there now. They are there right now. Some family are there right now. Pennant family. Thompson area. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's interesting. But what happened, and I don't know if April Louise has thought about this, but I have. I don't know if April Louise knows about Robert Rumble. Does she know about Robert Rumble?
What is?
I don't think that April Louise knows about the story of the tenants' strike and Robert Rumble.
Well, we have been informing her of that.
You have, good.
Yeah.
Because what happened after the Pennant family's estates were sold in 1940 was that they were bought by a well-known affluent Jamaican called Percy Junior. Now, Percy Junior then went on to endow funds to the hospital, which is called the Percy Junior Hospital. So you can't do any research about him because it's just all the hospital comes up all the time on Google. Anyway, so Percy Junior bought it. Then Percy Junior sold it to the British government, who were managing Jamaica then, because it was before Jamaican independence, 1940. And then the British government sliced it all up, and then all the lands that had been the Pennant plantations were sold on again. So one person bought the whole Denby plantation, and it subsequently became the Denby Agricultural Showground. But Pennants itself, my belief is, this is a Liz Millman interpretation of history here you're hearing. My belief is that the people in Pennants who'd gone on strike would have been so stretched, so poor, that they wouldn't have been able to afford the land in Pennants, because most of the people who have African descent and are called Pennants live in the areas around Pennants, not in Pennants.
They had to rent the land. But they had to rent the land from the landlords. To rent the land.
So that's my personal theory, and that's why they're all around. Yeah. Anything else, Ivor?
Not today.
It was very exciting yesterday, and I was so glad you were able to join us. That was a fantastic meeting with John Lloyd, and hearing about the future potential. So that was really lovely. It was absolutely great. Okay, thank you so much, Ivor. That was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Right, going around the screen then, Joan, we're going to be welcoming you sometime later in July or September to tell us about your book. And thank you for the copy you sent.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a case of having now done it. I now think, oh, you know what, I could do a bit more. So I'm happy to send out what I've done so far, but I do plan to now just do a few more, carry on the story a bit further, basically. What I've done so far, I'm very happy with. I have had feedback, and I do think, because I've done a book before where you basically submit a manuscript to a publisher, and that just took forever. But what I've enjoyed with this process is actually having much more control, and I sent it out to people whose views I respected, and I have had feedback, and that's been really, really useful. So I will be just sort of I'm happy to send it out to anyone who's interested. but they will. I'm not going to be
And
printing
the
it.
title of your book, Joan.
Sorry?
Tell us the title of the book. Tell us about the
It is
title
gonna-
and content of the book.
It probably is going to stay as it's not. It's not Notting Hill. It's Ladbroke Grove. That's most likely going to stay the working title.
Yeah.
So it's about this area of North Kensington, which everyone now wants to call Notting Hill, but as far as I'm concerned, isn't Notting Hill. But that is a whole other story that I won't go into now. But suffice to say that I will be getting it sort of printed stroke published in a couple of months. I'm obviously going to wait to get the ISBN number and all that until I've just got this extra bit. So I'll be spending the next 5 weeks in archives, and then I hope to sort of completely finish it.
Well, that's wonderful, Joan. And we've got with us another author, Rose Johnson, who's written some excellent books about, just a minute. Oops. About the British Caribbean veterans. And interestingly, yesterday, don't ask me how I came across this, but there's an appeal for the veterans home in Jamaica that's going out at the moment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So do you want to add anything else at the moment?
I visited a veterans home in Kingston when I was there. So I haven't seen the appeal, and I'd be interested if anybody has any information on it. Because I'd be very interested. So please do send that along, because I'd be happy to try and get some, do an activity to get some money in to help them.
I think it's coming back to me slowly. The Custos of Clarendon, the new Custos of Clarendon, is holding an event to raise money for the home, but the home is for veterans, but it isn't in Clarendon. It's in, where is it, Vivian?
Manchester.
Are you referring to Murphy Place in Kingston?
Yes.
Oh.
But so since while I'm on the floor, I hasten to say that the new Custos of Clarendon, her husband's the owner of Juicy Patties.
Oh, wow.
Wow. They were one of our sponsors last year. They gave us 200 patties.
Wow.
Woo. Yeah, because Wayne Lynn in Birmingham, they have the contract to make juicy patties.
So you did get cocoa bread with it?
No, we didn't actually. We literally just got the patties down there. So are you saying I was shortchanged, Vivian? I'll come back to it.
But can I just forgive me, but if you have information, Vivian, on this fundraising, I mean, I do have a contact actually in that home in Kingston, so I'll just touch base with him and just say what's going on. Is there some way I can help? Because that could, I mean, I'm happy to join in.
We can help promote that all over the place.
That's lovely. I'm just, I can definitely find the information for you all.
Thank you.
The way I read the adverts, it's like a proper poster, but it comes on your phone and it's really small. The way I read the advert was that, oh, wait a minute, I might have photographed it. Was that it was a different home, not the one that you're talking about in Kingston. It was somewhere in.
There's another one in Mandeville.
It's the Mandeville one.
Oh, because there is one there. I didn't get to see that, but
here we are.
Right. Oh, right. Okay.
You won't be able to read it properly, but this is the information.
Okay.
Right, so an evening of musical excellence. So it's the Jamaica Legion and Clarendon Poppy Appeal Committee under the distinguished patronage of Honourable Edith Chin, JP, wife of the owner of Juicy Patties. It doesn't say that on here. Custos Rulitarian. Oh, I can't say that word. For the parish of Clarendon, an evening of musical excellence with the Jamaica Military Band and guest performers. Sunday, May the 26th, 4 p.m. St Gabriel's Anglican Church Hall, 10 Church Street, May Pen. And then it's got the costs and the proceeds. Oh dear, it's so small. The proceeds in aid of retired soldiers living at Curphey, Curphey Home. So
Okay.
is Curphey Home in Kingston or Mandeville?
I have a contact with Jamaica Legion, so I'll maybe make a, I'll just drop him a note, I think.
Yeah, okay. But I
Curphey
can,
Home.
I can send this to you.
Yes, please.
I just can't work out how I'd put it on the PowerPoint. I probably could if I got
Not
too
to worry,
proactive.
Liz.
I'll send it to Rose because I've got it as well. I sent it to my friend in Maypen. And I think I
Oh,
put
right,
it under
okay.
Jamaica. I think I put it on the group, but I'll resend it to Rose.
Thank you. I don't know.
Right,
the
it
password.
might have been you that sent it round. I can't remember. Was it you, June Elizabeth? Probably. Right, okay. Right, so Roland, it's good that you're with us. Are you able to contribute anything? Do you want to tell us what Justice for Windrush Generations is doing at the moment? Roland's sometimes a bit quiet. And he's obviously quiet at the moment. Right. Simon's disappeared off to pick up his daughter. June Elizabeth, what would you like to add?
I'm glad I was able to come on today. It's been a bit busy because I was in the archives yesterday in Northampton. I got an email today from my Northampton Council because I've set up the Windrush Day event. And then they just said, well, because the election's been called, 4th of July, from now to then, none, any of the officials are not allowed to say anything. And they're not allowed to give a speech. There's a word for it. That was Birder. That's it, yeah. So I said, oh, that's okay, But I just thought, is Dr. Vivian still here?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
yes,
I just wanted to ask you, is there two Bethanies in Jamaica? Now the Bethany in Manchester near Margolly. Is there another Bethany in Jamaica that you know about? Okay, that's fine.
That's the only one.
Lovely, because I was
Moravian territory.
Okay, because I was reading about the when the Baptist missionaries had the freeholders, the free schools. So, the villages made the free villages, and they said that Bethany, Buxton, and Clarksonville, Wilberforce was established. So I was just wondering if there was another Bethany, because that was the school that made me, Bethany School in Manchester, when I went for a year and a half. That's what made me got a little bit of Jamaican thing.
Bethany, I didn't know it's a Baptist. I thought it was Moravian territory, that.
Well, I don't know if it was Baptist, but it said the other Baptist missionaries, Clark, Dendy and Burchell, encouraged and assisted the setting up of free villages. And in doing so, helped the process that was to change emancipated slaves into peasant proprietors and freeholders. Within 5 years, nearly 200 of these villages, including Bethany, Buxton and Clark.
It was started though by Filippo.
Reverend that's J. correct.
Filippo from
J.M. Filippo.
The Baptist,
Reverend.
yes. And when he came to Jamaica as a preacher, this is why I speak about the morality. He was denied a license to preach.
Okay.
And he bought the 50 acres of land, had it cut up, sell to the enslaved to be freed. And yet the space is not named after him. It's named after the governor Sligo.
Oh dear. Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Vivian. And that is the end of me.
Okay,
move
that's
on.
absolutely
Pass
fine.
the Dutch on the other side now.
Well,
I'm got you on the right hand side.
Just keep them entertained for a minute. I'm just about to share another bit of the PowerPoint. Right, okay then. Where are we? Excuse me. Share screen. Right. This was the book that Catherine Hall, Professor Catherine Hall, who came and joined us yesterday. She's written this book Vivian, I think there's quite a bit you can read online, but it's about Lucky Valley and Edward Long's, who wrote The History of Jamaica. So you know that, presumably, Vivian.
That name, Edward Long.
So
yes, but you see, I'm sorry to say, the person who is writing about it's those who the African expression story, that it is the victor who is writing the story, not the vanquished. So when I'm reading them, I make sure some water is in my mouth.
Right. Well, I'm just going to say that Catherine Hall's husband was Jamaican, and she's probably spent as much time in Jamaica as she has in the UK. So she's perhaps not so inappropriate to write that story. But the great thing is that she has a real passion to understand the stories, and the work that she's done is just remarkable. So very fascinating. Okay, Roland, are you there? Roland? Last call, Roland. Right, Ivor, have you decided what instruments you're going to buy yet for the band?
Yes, it will be the same, apart from the drums and so on. All the wind instrument, trombone, trumpets, those things, saxophones.
Okay.
Let me see how amount.
So basically, it'll be about the same amount that we put in for before that we'll be applying for. And then when we get any more money, we can have even more of the same. And that's can't have too many instruments, can you?
That's right.
We're harking back to our project in the Penance Village. Now, Ivor, we've got a gentleman joined us today called Rudi Page. And Rudy's done some incredible work in St. Thomas. Developing the community there. So it would be really nice to make a link between your community in Penance in Clarendon and Rudi Page's communities in St. Thomas. And there's a link with the Welsh in St. Thomas as well. So they're going to be part of the Jamaica Wales Alliance. So we'll have Jamaica Wales Alliance Penance project, and then Jamaica Wales Alliance will also include, what do you call your project?
Landui, that's spiritual.
And we'll follow that up. That's very exciting indeed. And thank you for finding that information.
One more thing, Liz, the gold diggers are back here. The gold diggers are back here.
The gold diggers are back, are they?
So we're doing some testing now.
There's a gold mine in Penance, would you believe? A gold mine. Serious?
We're doing some testing now.
Yeah.
Actually, Liz, just before we go, the other thing that I found out, because of the link, all the work that we've done in Augustown, because I wanted to connect the St. Thomas communities to Augustown, and obviously being so close, only to find out that in the 19th century, again, you had African mounting. And so there was a trail from Augustown through the mountains to St. Thomas. And then it was known as Long Mountain. And then, of course, generally people just use the term Blue Mountains. But what I thought was really interesting is that many people understand the route from Augustown through the mountains to Landui. And there's a couple of people who explained all the different places that are on the way from Augustown to Landui. And the scouts, apparently, a couple of generations ago, used to use that area. And apparently the National Water Commission, those people, they understand that area as well. But again, so we were saying at some point over the next 5 years to bring back that as a trail, you know, the African Mountain Trail. Because that was what it was called in the 19th century, African Mountain.
There's real potential there for
and that is in Olive Lawrence's book. That is in the submission for UNESCO's first declaration to Jamaica.
Is it? All right.
Yes, because the Maroons were invited across on that trail,
Mm,
right at what is now the Carib Cement, where they were to be put on a ship to be
right.
thrown to some other country.
Yeah.
And on their way, they heard somebody singing. The men were making shackles. They didn't know they were shackles, but
Yeah.
the men were singing, ugly did they, oh, ugly did they, oh. Do you understand what I just said?
No.
Ugly did, exactly. Ugly did, I'll now separate. Ugly did they, you understand that? Ugly
Ugly, as in ugly,
did they.
is there.
Ah,
Ugly is there.
brilliant. And so they picked up the enslaved that they should run, and they ran back because ugly is there means that they were making shackles for them.
Exactly. Ugly is there.
But the slave masters wouldn't understand
They
that.
wouldn't understand that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And the
So
other
brilliant.
interesting thing is you say that the Albion Estate now where Mesga Gardens, so at the bottom is Three Finger Jack, which I think they're
Oh yes, Jackman, yes. Jackman
whole
song.
yes. So for 2.5 miles upwards going towards Grant's Pen on the coastline, that is Mesga Gardens. And it was the Albion Estate. And I was reading that they actually joined Paul Bogle. They marched to the courthouse from the Albion Estate to join him, to join the
Well, Paul Bogle walked 80 miles return journey through the mountains to Spanish Town to see the governor and was denied.
Yeah.
And I've been talking too much, but I feel so strongly. I'd recommended elsewhere that the King's House in Jamaica should be called Paul Bogle House, and nobody has taken me on. Because the parliament is named after George William Gordon.
Gordon, exactly.
And Gordon and Bogle has no remembrance, which is perhaps fulfilling the Bible, the Apocrypha, and some there be who have no memorial. Yeah. But why was King's House? Why is King's House not named Paul Bogle House? Still remains to me a mystery.
Yeah.
But I'm young enough to understand these things.
You understand why?
Well, absolutely amazing. And you can never talk too much, Vivian, because you just add such authentic gems. I do the Liz Millman interpretation of Black history and our shared history, but sometimes my interpretations are a bit vague. Anyway, it's just been a brilliant evening with you.
Yeah,
well,
nice.
a brilliant morning for you, or afternoon for you, or night for me. Yeah.
One other thing here. Tomorrow also be showing April Elizabeth, April Louise. I mean, we cut the trail, which is near Kelly's. Cut one of the bus standing Maroons. It's still there. It's still there. I'm sure there's part of the trail.
That's fantastic. That's really, really good. Ooh, I wish I was there. I'm going to book my ticket and get to England first. I did try to fly the other way around the world. I thought, I could fly across the Pacific, although no anybody who wants to fly at the moment must be out their mind, but still, across the Pacific and come into Jamaica on my way to Wales, but it's prohibitively expensive. So I think it'll just be the straight through Dubai stop off route that I'll do. But yeah, it would be great to come over and see the things that you're talking about, Ivor, because if we get the money from the Welsh government, which is another application we've got in, then we'll be able to see what we can do with the exchange visits, and also to do something, I think, in North Wales. We're trying to think ahead. I have to say that I am appalled, and Rudi, you'll understand this very well. But in Wales, the closing date for applications for Windrush funding is the 31st of May. and you can only apply for £2,000.
Yeah.
You can hardly make a cup of tea for that for the group. So
Exactly.
I don't know. I've kind of feel as if I've run out of steam really, but we will definitely do something to recognise Windrush in North Wales. But it's just wicked that the Welsh Government is dragging its feet again, because I was the person who shook them into realisation that they needed to provide funding for activities across Wales to recognise Windrush, and they hadn't got any intention of doing it. And the English funding, of course, doesn't extend to Wales. So, yeah, it's a big disappointment that, but we'll make every effort. I still can't remember the gentleman that I wanted to ask you about, Vivian, but we'll come to it. He did research into pirates, and he came from Mona, and I'm sure his first name was Anthony. Anyway, I'll find out and let you know.
It's
Okay,
not
then,
Bogues.
folks.
It's not Bogues. It's not Bogues.
Anthony Bogues.
Anthony Bogues.
No, I think he's the guy. Professor Anthony Bogues is the guy who knows about penance.
Brown's
isn't he?
University. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, he's and his wife was a lovely, lovely lady, and she wrote a book called Busy Lizzie and Croaking Johnny. Now I've remembered the whole of the name. I'll be able to look that up, and I'll be able to work it back.
Croaking Johnny.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds
because
like
it would be great to
1960s
find out
pop
if
group.
he's still around. Sorry?
1960s pop group, sounds like.
Oh. I don't know. I just know the kids' book, and because my name's Liz, I liked a book called Busy Lizzie and Croaking Johnny. Okay then, folks. Well, thanks ever so much. Then I just have to end the session for everybody, and then the recording gets stopped off. Okay then. All right, folks. I'll see you again next week then. Next week.
Dr. Rudi.
Yes.
All right, good to see
Please
you.
invite any Jamaican teachers you know next week. Jamaican teachers. And
And
Roland.
I'm actually
Sorry.
not going till the following day, Liz, so I'm here
Oh.
in London.
Oh,
Even
that's
better.
fantastic. So we'll try and do something. So Roland has sent me a great long screed of things about activities for Windrush Day. So I think the best for Windrush Manifesto rally, he sent it to me on my phone though, so I can't share it easily with you all. So I'll think about how I'm going to do that, and we'll try and get that to you. I'll send it round to everybody with the information about the teachers thing. And then we're going to do something in a couple of weeks' time about nurses. So we've got quite a nice little programme coming up. Okay then, lots of best wishes to you all. All right, bye then, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
One love.
Thanks,
Bye.
Rudy.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. It's been
Bye.
brilliant to meet with you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, thanks then. Bye then.